Well, Olek Krupa, first of all, it's been a long time since we've seen each other. Thanks for coming in on the podcast.
Thank you, Mark. I feel the same way. The memory of Making Reagan is so strong in me that basically it's been a long time, and yet making this movie stayed with me quite deeply. I mean, it was a special project. So, yes.
Well, thank you for all the sacrifices you made, including cutting your hair off to play the role.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. What was good about that I got old ladies were saying, "Please, go for it, go ahead of us," because I look like an old man without the hair. So maybe that was an advantage.
Well, we had to get everything just right, including that red birthmark on your head, and of course, shaving your hair off. But what an experience! I'm sure you've never made a movie during a pandemic before, either.
No, that's true. No, I haven't. I might make one in the future if the pandemics are coming back and haunting us. So no, but seriously, it was what, it's some projects you do anything that is necessary. I was playing at La Jolla Playhouse. There was a play by Oden van Horvath, and again, it's among many projects. There are always few in one's life. There are few of them that are not actually that they become part of your the time of your life. And doing the Oden van Horvath also, I changed so much. I dyed my hair white, and I asked for 3 suits because I started as a very flamboyant young prince, and I ended up suicidal at the end when the revolution happened. It was called Figaro Gets a Divorce, and again they said, "Oh, why 3 suits?" Yes, because I started very tight, and then the suit was so huge, and I was such a small person in it, So sometimes, and the same was with the Reagan. I mean, my heart was pounding and I was prepared, and yet when the changes were taking place, it was very emotional. I mean, it's forget about the hair. My hair grows well. Yours too. It's not. So it was not, but just the change, what came from the inside.
Right.
Yeah. So it was actually a reward. Cutting the hair and doing the makeup, it was a reward for what was already inside me.
Right.
No.
Well, you wrote a wonderful piece in the Wall Street Journal about your personal history. What really stood out to me, I'd love to have you talk about that a little bit, but what stood out to me was you talking about how you had to get over your natural dislike of Mikhail Gorbachev and the Soviet Union to play the role because of your background in Poland. Can you share that with our listeners and viewers?
Well, we grew. I mean, Poland never really became the Soviet Union, but yet we were the neighboring country. Ukraine was part of one of the republic, so we grew up in a way oppressed. But now, when I think about it, again, and maybe it's not a very good answer, but when I think about it, it taught us something. Sometimes oppression teaches you something else, and so when I didn't really want to do Gorbachev because I didn't think I knew enough also. And it goes all the way to up to date that we very often don't have the information, and yet we get emotional and we express our opinions without really. You have to know much more. So let me see how I could really be. Though you see, it's interesting because I played before. There was a movie called 13 Days, and I played Andrei Gromyko.
Right, foreign minister.
So that was not a difficult thing. It was just a job. But this one somehow whether it was the script, whether it was you and Sean, that I took it much further. And so it was not just. Besides, also physically, I was so far away when you decided to engage me in the. I thought it's not for me. I'm not neither looking or thinking about in positive way about, and yet somehow kudos to you and Sean that you convinced me and helped me to go through that with the most honest, way through the role. I still feel like I didn't answer your question.
Well, I think just about your background in Poland. First of all, share with us your background and your growing up in Poland and how you came to America.
Well, I was. I got a little. There was a scholar from Santa Barbara, and he saw me in Beauty and the Beast. That was a Jean Cocteau play, and I was in a play, and I did, I guess, good job. And he was so impressed. He said, you should expand your horizon, and you should go to United States. I am inviting you, and you can be for a couple of months in the States and see theater there. So, and yet I already traveled. No, it was not yet. No, I traveled throughout the world as an actor with a theater group from Krakow. But to go back, so he invited me, and I came here basically with a guitar, long hair, and a backpack, and ended up going from having letters of recommendation where I can stay. I never got to Santa Barbara because the director, the scholar, decided to stay in Berlin. So I was basically a young, aspiring actor trying to make some money to survive, and then I ended up in a theater a project in Baltimore, where my future, she was a adjunct professor at NYU, and we became very close, and then she came to. I couldn't imagine after studying at Drama Academy in Warsaw being. We see that also goes back to how we approach certain things that I couldn't be here to stay. Of course, it seems like, oh, you are in America, stay. No, I wanted to go back because my professors, who were the best actors in Poland, performing in theaters in Warsaw, taught us about patriotism, about speaking well, about how important the language is, because we also had to learn Russian. But it was just sort of I said I'd love to continue our loveship or friendship, but you have to come with me. So she actually decided to give up her career, and she was a composer also. Her name was Noah Ain. So she came to Poland. But when in 1981, when things were so, she was afraid she was also of Jewish origin, so she was afraid to be in Poland, history of Poland and the Soviet Union. So we came here, and I started to first, and actually, in a way, I had much more interesting a career, let's say career in the sort of parenthesis, when I was doing theater, because in the movies, I very often, with my accent, I played the tough one, the gangster, the Russian hoodlum, and only when coupled kept, and among that was a Reagan, that I didn't have to play. And in Poland, I played noblemen, artists, painters, or sort of the more the intelligentsia, intellectuals. But in the movies here in Law and Order, well, I was always the guy who was the bad guy, so called. But there were a few projects where, like Reagan, where if it would be 1979 and Gorbachev was the first secretary, I would say he's a bad guy. But when you started to understand and study who he was and how he sort of the conversations between the meetings between him and Reagan, it became something else. It was not
Right.
just playing a bad guy
Right.
anymore. It was sort of, and it was actually a noble job to do.
So, Oleg, I told Jon Voight this is the greatest acting challenge of your career for Jon Voight to play a communist. Now that takes acting skills, right?
Yes, yes, it does. You know, speaking actually, I remember there was a break. I was, of course, I know and admire and have great admiration for him. But I came after 2 weeks back to the movie set, and I remember I had the New Yorker on my arm, and I said hello. He said, "Excuse me, sir. Uh, the director showed me all the scenes that you have done so far, because we did a lot of scenes without John being there."
Right.
He said, "And it's an honor to," and I'm not bragging. I just said that it's an honor to work with you, sir.
Mm,
I probably made some face. He said, "No, no, I truly mean it."
wow.
And then and I had the most interesting time with John on this set. I didn't even tell him that I worked with Angelina on Soul. You know, like it was different, kind of like maybe
Right.
and at the end he said. So we had a lot of conversations about theater, about where I worked, where he worked, where he couldn't get a job at the public theater and wanted to, and I was there. So, you know, actors talking, but also about life and about politics. And he said, "Do you have a script?" I said, "No, it's in my trailer. Bring it, please." And so I brought the script, and he wrote. We spent very little time, but we became friends, and I'm writing as your admirer. So that was lovely
Wow.
and very genuine. You know, it's not about now
Right.
saying, "Oh, how great it." It was just. It was a very. I would say it was a very genuine project. I mean, I am. You should be happy about it, because I mean it. That it was not just going to do a movie, and it became something else.
Yeah.
And who everybody. I remember the look of the director of photography, how genuine he was reacting to what we did. You know, it was just
Right.
we didn't. It was not 2 dimensional. It was 3 dimensional, if that's the word that can be used. You know,
It was a special time. I think
very
you
yeah.
know we are releasing the director's cut on September 25th this year in theaters again, 10 additional minutes. So I can't wait for you to see
Okay.
the additional minutes. Uh,
I'll I'll be away till October, but you see, now I have a question to. Reagan never really got out there as it should be. I feel.
it was an election year, and there was so much going on. It was a really tough time to release a movie. We had to contractually, but we did hit number one on the eighth day. We beat Deadpool and Wolverine on day 8, so we were number one for one day. I can't say that happens a whole lot, but we're
Yes,
glad to come out again as a special 250th anniversary edition, and people can see your brilliant
wonderful,
performance again.
wonderful.
I wanted to talk to you about how did you prepare for the role of Gorbachev? What did you do to prepare yourself?
I read his speeches. I saw some documentaries about him even before he became the first secretary. So basically reading his what he has written, reading about history. So it was quite quite. I was very engaged but basically watching documentaries and reading what his speeches.
Right. What did you learn? Did you learn anything about him that surprised you?
Hmm. I don't remember now. You know, it's hard to. It's a couple of years, so surprised me. But it was surprising what he was able to achieve, as in those few years of being the first secretary.
Yeah. I spent time with about 55 or so of the people that knew Reagan, worked with him. we definitely tried to get some time with Gorbachev, but we were never successful. You know, he had an agent who would demand money. I think that agent demanded some money from us, and we said no, we wouldn't do that. But
Right.
it struck me, what struck me about your portrayal of him and just learning more about him was I think he had, he had a very religious grandmother. And he talked about her a lot. And, Reagan used to notice that Gorbachev would sometimes refer to God, even in a way that didn't seem religious, but, sort of God help us or God save us or something.
Yes.
And he would tell his aides, there's something about that guy. He says, I think that guy believes in God. And it seemed to me that Gorbachev did not have the will to crush the dissent that other Soviet leaders had when it began to break up, because he certainly could have crushed it militarily with a lot of bloodshed. I just don't think he had it in him to do that. You have any thoughts on that?
I remember I was so vivid about the scene where I talk about my grandmother and I think I said, and I will also pray for you to Reagan.
Right.
It was very, very touching, but it's that's the strange thing, that people in Russia are very religious, and yet they had to be members of the Communist Party to keep a job, to get a job, to get promoted. So a lot in Poland, a lot of the dignitaries still baptize their children in a small church somewhere, maybe 20 miles away from Warsaw. So nobody would knew, but they would sort of, here they would actually be very strict on the party line, and yet at the same time they would go and baptize their children, or have secret wedding, marriage ceremony in small churches that nobody knew. So it's
right.
It was sort of, you had to pretend.
Right.
You had to pretend to have to succeed.
But other Soviet leaders had no problem putting down uprisings with bloodshed.
Right.
Czechoslovakia, in different places. It just seems to me that Gorbachev I think he had a conscience, is what I'm getting at.
Also, I think that he was not an apparatchik. He was an educated man with a much wider view of the world of politics. So I think that also was something that he didn't come from just being nominated now the first secretary by his somehow. I think it was Brezhnev who took him under his wing when he visited, because he worked in some kind of a provincial town where he was the head of again, I don't remember exactly now, but
right. Yeah. Growing up, so when did you leave Poland, and what was your attitude toward the Soviet Union as a young person, as a teenager, for instance?
It was, as a teenager, it was mostly what my parents felt, not what I have felt. But it's mostly my father, for example, had to. He was in a firm where he was in charge of the economy of that for the whole county. He had to join the party, which when he wanted to visit me in the States, he couldn't. The United States government did not give him the entry visa, because he was a communist, and my father was not a communist. My father was, but he was Communist Party member. In order to, at certain level of the position you had in your in industry or science or anything, you had to join the party.
Right. Right.
So I don't uh, the only thing that the Polish KGB came because I've heard I've heard the conversations with my parents, my grandparents about what's going on, and in a way, anyway, yes. And so the next day, I went to the balcony that was adjacent to our home, our house, and I was screaming Stalina Ogród, which means the garden of Stalin, the garden of Stalin, as a child. The next day there was a KGB, and I remember that I quickly ran to the living room where I pushed the radio because my father was listening to Free Europe. You see, he was a Communist Party member, but at the same time he was every night he was listening to Radio Free Europe, and
Ah,
I knew that, and I knew that it was illegal as a few years old child. So I shoved the radio and destroyed it because I was so against the wall, against the under the table or something. So because I knew when those two guys, you see, I immediately knew that those two guys are going to harm my parents.
wow.
They didn't. Somehow they got away with it, but
Right.
the things were, and Poland was still sort of some. We got away with things. I mean, we were not in Georgia or Armenia or or Ukraine. We still, because it was the country that was connected to Western world. We were always aspiring to more towards France and Italy and Germany. That was interesting.
Yeah. What year did you leave to come to the U.S.?
1981. I,
81.
I I I came to, well, I had three fantastic parts in the theater in Krakow, the theater Stu, which still exists. Actually, we had a big um, a digression. I was one of the leading actors, and last year there was a symposium of critics, directors, and I was the guest of Anne, sort of, and we had a big evening screening of Reagan. It was very, it was those people were so smart. For 3 days there were conversations, lectures, and then at the end, on Sunday evening, everybody got together and they showed Reagan,
Really?
and they truly liked what I did and what the movie was about.
Hmm.
And then another celebration was in my hometown, and we were a little bit in touch that maybe Wałęsa would, or he was already sick, but it was a big sort of evening of the. It was full. It was full. It was in a theater in my hometown,
Hmm.
and just people really loved the movie.
Oh, that's so good to hear.
So it was, yeah. So,
And they
and
had
also it was
Polish
in the movie.
subtitles?
Pardon me?
They have Polish
Yes,
subtitles?
yes, subtitles. It was also playing in my hometown theaters. We have two big sort of, like the Plaza or something in cinema. Was so it was very well received.
Right.
And I'm not saying to be nice, just it truly was.
Well, your performance was well received. I remember there was two takes of, there was one take we didn't use where you were very, very animated with Quaid, and I
Right,
think
yeah.
you used the one where you were a little more calm. But yeah, I'd love to hear your thought process there. Did you have some research that showed that um, your character became very animated, or was that just you playing the moment?
Probably me playing the moment.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yes, yeah, yeah.
It's a great showdown. Even watching it again, the look of Quaid as he looks over at you, and also Quaid looks over at George Schultz for just a second, if you notice his eye, and then Schultz's lip curls up just a little bit. Just wonderful, great acting among three total pros in that moment for our viewers to go back and take a look at that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it was, really, I mean, now when we go back and things are, I have great memories of actually truly. I was a little bit nervous when I came to the set because I had a small part in a movie with Herb Ross,
Uh-huh.
and Dennis was quite cocky, you know. "Ah, hey, Ross,
Right.
Herb, one more take, and I'm in my trailer. You can
Right.
do what." So I thought, it was never towards me. But I thought, okay, I'm a sweet guy, but I'm not also a pushover. So I thought, wow, I hope. But I walked into the set. He was there. It was the first day, and he said, "Hey, Gorby, how are you doing?" And it sort of broke. You know, I thought, well, it probably will be okay. And then we had a lovely time. But truly, I love to work with everybody there. You know,
Anyway, it was an honor to work with you. I wish it was
no,
under better circumstances without masks, because every time we had to have masks, we couldn't go to restaurants, we couldn't do anything. But how many
but
of you were you on set total?
uh, well, I think I came twice. And just as an anecdote, you know, I mean, you get nervous when you work. I mean, you want really to, and especially this project was very important to me, and from the inside. So I stayed in the country sort of holiday inn, but then when I came back, you gave me the most wonderful. It was the best hotel. I stayed also in Georgia in the Gone with the Wind premier hotel, but
Right.
you gave me a. It was on a Dennis and John stayed in that little boutique hotel.
Yes.
It was fantastic. I thought, I think I am doing okay work because they promoted me, means you guys.
Right. I remember when you came to the set the first time, your hair on both sides was kind of protruding a little bit. So I
Yeah.
said to our guy, you got to trim that hair. And so they went to work on you to fix that. But all the little details, are very important.
But you know, but you were very actually you were very present actually at making of the movie in terms of my character. That you were not you were tough on me. Really, I mean, not truly. I mean, it was tough. I didn't do anything ridiculous, but you were tough. You were very demanding.
Mm.
Let's see if we can do this. Let's see if he can look this way. Let's see if he can sit that way. I mean, it was Sean who directed, but you were I wouldn't say not easy, but you were very demanding.
Mm. Okay. Well, thank you. I think I'll, I'll interpret it as a compliment. But
It is
no,
no, it is a compliment. No, it is. I mean, you know, if it is a compliment, absolutely is.
it was a very challenging time. I think the greatest challenge with any actor is to let you do your thing. First of all, we wanted each of you guys are all pros. You've done this 1,000 times, and so I know, especially with our actresses, I noticed that they would say, "Can we change this dialogue?" And we said, "Of course." You're first of all, you're a woman. Our writer's a man. You're going to say things differently. Go for it. And especially with our Margaret Thatcher actress, who did a wonderful job. Of course, you know her. And then
Yes,
of course, I think our three leading actresses, I believe, really felt the freedom
yes.
to do things a little bit differently.
You know, it's like it's. Yeah, I mean, I saw it probably by now maybe 5, 6 times, not because of me, but just because of circumstances. And it's like it was really a great cast. I mean, and the
Really
scenes
was.
between Reagan and Nancy. I mean, they were really. And also, you know what was also, which is important, that people got to see in. It was almost like a documentary, even if it was a feature film.
Hmm.
It was a documentary about United States of America.
Hmm.
I've heard a couple times from different people that it was not only about Reagan but about America. That movie sort of is very, very revealing, complex about the country, you know, that about USA.
You know, I watched it in Japan with a Japanese audience, with the Japanese members of parliament. And so I'm watching it for the first time with, there's Japanese subtitles, which I can read most of them. And it's funny because I had never thought of it before, but all of a sudden I'm watching, there's a line where Reagan says, "We are the greatest country in the history of the world." And I thought, what is it like for Japanese people to be hearing Americans talk about ourselves like we're the
Yeah,
greatest? So
yeah.
I asked one of them, how does that make you feel? And he said, oh, we're used to it with you guys. You do it all the time.
Uh-huh. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, probably similar with a Polish audience, would you say?
Uh, well, it was like, you know, like we were. It was actually the curtain was moved so we could see. I mean, you could see United States, the landscape, the also Dennis did a great job actually on Reagan. Really, I mean, like and it was sad what towards the. I mean, you get people. I think people were really watching the movie, and going with 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 the heart of it,
Right.
with the spirit of it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I'd love to talk a bit about your philosophy of acting. We talked about some of the work you did in Poland, but what is it? Do you have an overarching philosophy that you bring, or actors that you studied under? What can you tell us about your work?
Um, well, it was Stanislavski.
Hmm.
But I just right now I'm reading. I read a book of a guy, a Polish professor, critic, and scholar who came here on Fulbright, and actually he was very critical of about the methods of Stanislavski and Chekhov, who was sort of took it a little bit further. But
Right.
I think it was mostly. Mostly Stanislavski method, and it was I don't know 4 years of very it was amazing. I mean that's again 2000. Everybody wants to be an actor when they are kids. 2000 people were applying to the school, and 20 of us got in. So it was a very almost one on one with and we had like imagine that. Uh, Duval or Gene Hackman or De Niro or Hoffman, those were the Polish major actors who were our teachers.
Mm.
So it was a it was very tough also, but that's why I wanted to go back to Poland because I wanted to be an Polish actor.
Uh-huh.
Be in Poland and perform there, and especially I joined a theater. When I was here, I was a little bit dissatisfied because I thought the theater. I went with one of my professors to he again. It was a lot of politics. He got to organize a new theater in a place where they were major factories, just for the workers. The sort of the representative of Polish intelligentsia, and I think that also opened me to not only that we traveled to Mexico, Iran, and other countries with performances, including Russia, Soviet Union no Russia already.
Right.
Oh boy. So she said, go, and one thing after another, it's all connected.
Yeah. So what is I mean, you obviously grew up in some sense under communist rule in Poland. Then you lived in the West in freedom. What did you notice different about life in what we call a free society versus life in a communist society? What are the differences, and what did you notice?
Well, it's not as free as it seems to be from the outside. Uh, in a way, the system that I grew up in was, we were sort of all equal, sort of financially. Education was for free, yes, it was. When I look at it back, it was not a bad place to grow up. In terms of education, in terms of freedom, of friendship. And of course, we didn't travel to Aruba or other places. We were going to the neighboring, maybe mountains, but it was sort of, and maybe it's also because I'm older now, and you know, and maybe I look at things in much more complex way. But I don't know what free society really. What do you mean by free society? You know, and I know the term of it, but maybe the world has changed also.
Are you saying today in America we're not really a free society? Do you feel?
Well, you know, yeah, I can also. I mean, mostly I feel free. I feel free, but people have hard times sometimes, you know, whether it's politically or financially. So I don't know how I don't have the capacity to make such, you know, big statement about free society.
Right. But you did describe to me growing up in Poland, you had to be careful. Government officials
Yes,
might be
yes.
watching what you were listening to on the radio, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty shocking for an American to think that you may have government officials listening or telling you what you can
Yes.
hear on the radio.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yes.
But it didn't stop your parents from listening to Radio Free Europe, though.
Right. You know what? We all went around the corner, around the bend. So it was it was the same about religion, about politics, about. But this again, you know, it's hard to compare the wealth of United States versus places like Poland of that time. But I think the world also is a little bit getting sort of alike a little bit. You know, like it's a if you and I don't want to go into that because I don't have the capacity or the information, but the politics in Poland are very much like the division between, you know, within the society. It's very much now like here or in France or, you know, or Italy. So it's but I probably also look at it from a guy who from a young person who got education, you know, got in Poland. And you see, I had well, maybe that's why I also got to the drama academy, not only because but I was a coal miner. I'm a biology teacher, educated never taught for only for 1 year. I taught in a reformatory school, you know, sort of prison for young adults. So I had a lot of experience before I got into the drama academy, and actually that was also, you know, gave me a lot of experience how to look into people's lives.
Yeah. Without getting too political, how did you feel when Lech Walensa's in 1981, you know, the revolution, all that happened there?
It was fantastic. We were so elevated, you know. It was just we were performing. The theater I was part of was quite famous and cherished, and there was always more audience than we could actually have. But it was the only time where we were performing in a huge stand outside of Gdansk. And it was the only time where, and Wałęsa was at the same day, was on the gate saying that, that those changes are taking place.
Right.
That we had the audience, all the audience went there because it was the whole country was sort of so elevated, so excited, and afraid that we might be crushed by the Soviet Union. Actually, and that was a little bit later, but Jaruzelski's, I was here already a couple of years where in order to not the Soviet Union not to enter Poland, he did the martial law.
Right.
So
he was the leader of Poland, the communist leader of Poland.
Yes. But again, he was already maybe a little bit like Gorbachev. He didn't want to hurt people. He didn't want to. As a child, he was very religious. He wrote poetry, but then sometimes the position obliges you to be in a certain way, to have a certain front. Probably like you as a producer, probably you have so many other things in your mind, but as a producer, you have to come and you execute the day of shooting.
Yeah, what communism is looking increasingly, not communism, but I'd say democratic socialism or communism looking increasingly attractive to young Americans. Do you have any advice for them based on what you saw?
No, I don't.
So, but you mentioned there were the good things you mentioned earlier were healthcare, things like that, education. Those things are free.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you came to America, and I mean, you experienced the contrast in 1981. That's fascinating. Well, let's move on to your career in Hollywood. How did that get started, and what are some of your most memorable roles from your perspective?
Well, mostly theater. I played in movies. I played Eric von Stroheim. You know who he?
Okay.
I played him in a movie about the Kennedys because Joe Kennedy was involved with leading actress, and he wanted, and she wanted him in. So he engaged Eric von Stroheim. But in America, I played Gauguin, La Mama, Van Gogh, Kafka. I mean, so, but those were small theater. In the movies, I basically played I occupied certain position, except by playing Reagan or what else? Mostly theater gave me a chance to be a good actor.
And playing a lot of bad guys.
A lot of bad guys because yes, and then I played a good guy named Gorbachev.
What American actors did you most enjoy working alongside, other than Dennis Quaid?
Well, I would say Jon Voight, but it was but that was we didn't have that much. I mean, privately we were talking a lot, but let me see. I like James Caan. I did a movie with James Caan. It doesn't come to me, right away. I love playing with. I did something with John Lithgow and Isabella Rossellini.
Right.
James Jones. I mean, so James Earl Jones.
James Earl Jones.
Yeah. Well, I have an actors company that actually I did a play with his wife. He's gone, she's gone, but he came to see the show. It was actually he was a well-known, I think, screenwriter, Steve Tessich. It was his play, and James said, then we became sort of friends. He said, that man is a star quality. But you don't think about yourself. I mean, you come. You have to. I had to learn the language. I spoke a little bit with my wife of that, but we were speaking Polish. So there was a lot of things. I mean, I started with little workshops. Like already playing a major roles in Polish theater. So
Right.
it was a it was a lesson, and it was a struggle.
Yeah, what you've obviously sort of lived it out, but what is the American dream mean? What does it mean to you?
Well, I don't have an American dream. No, I mean, no. I came here because of my family life. We had a child. I had a wife, American child, and so it's no. It would be too simple to just. I don't have an American dream.
Mm,
I I wish that people have their dreams fulfilled in America.
mm.
Americans and those who come here from all over the world. Do you have an American dream? I mean, do you? No, we live our lives and we sort of
Well, I ask this question a lot when I'm with foreigners who come to America.
yes, yeah, yeah, yeah,
Uber driver, taxi drivers. I'll ask because I'll have my son with me, and I want him to hear their stories. And oftentimes I'll ask them that, and they'll say, "Well, where I come from, wherever it might be, Philippines, Nicaragua, wherever, they'll say I can't move up the social ladder in my
yes, yeah.
country. Whereas in America, I feel like I have a chance that I can move up if I work hard." I hear that a
But
lot.
yes, but okay. So you can hear that, but actually, do they actually eventually move up? Probably
Well, I mean, it
that's
takes a long time. They have to work two, three jobs. In the case of an Uber driver, this is his second or third job. His wife is working. They have to work very,
right.
very, very hard. But back home, they'll tell me I just can't make progress, whatever that means. That's why I'm always curious to ask that question
Yes, yeah.
of someone like you.
Because actually, I think that I would say that uh, the level of life it's much higher. But I don't think that if you are a taxi driver, you probably will be a taxi driver for most of your life, and maybe then you will work maybe as a plumber somewhere, but you are not going to enter the let's say the intelligentsia or the the people who are. But meanwhile, you will probably maybe buy a house in your own country
Right,
because the money now the dollar is not that strong, but dollar was a
right.
God's given a currency, So we all thought that dollar was God,
Yeah,
and actually it did mean a lot. Now it's sort of it's not as strong as it used to be.
right,
If, um,
right. Well, listen, you gave us, thank you for all you did for our film to give us such a fantastic performance as Mikhail Gorbachev. And it was certainly great to have you on this. I hope we'll do it again sometime soon in a different role. But
I
thank you
it's great
for,
to see you. It's great to see. It's like it's a yeah. With you guys, I'd love to do something, but I'm not asking for a job. It was a gift that I received, and it really, as I said, like it stays with me. I mean, that was one of the few. I feel like I didn't answer any of your questions, but that's besides the point.
no, 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 you did. Well,
I
your performance was a gift to us. And of course, your friendship is a gift to us. So thank you for both those
thank you.
gifts. And let's
Thank
continue to
you.
stay in touch.
Okay, thank you. Love to you and to Sean and all the people who are, part of the movie. Yes. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you, Oleg. We'll be in touch.
Yes, take care. Bye. Thank you. Bye.